And when you're behind a leader, the consensus is to usually follow that leader and group behind them. You know, the Americans do it after the primary elections every year. They have to group behind that one leader to make sure they don't become broken apart in all higgledy-piggledy, which is what happened with the Conservatives in the the early 90s over Europe. And I think what's important is that now that someone who was heavily involved, he was an advisor, David Cameron, to Norman Lamont, and I think it's important now that we recognise that he might have had different views then. It doesn't mean that he had to express them, because you can imagine the front page of The Sun if one of Norman Lamont's advisors is raving about this. We're doing it wrong, and perhaps they were doing it wrong. But what's important to note is that today it is a different thing. He is taking a different stance on things and moving in a different direction.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Sam. Jazz, is that kind of satisfying you? Yeah. Okay, James.
We all know about all the house prices increasing every day, and the average house price in the UK now is £200,000. So does this not make sense when the Conservative Party try to introduce a potential policy that the inheritance tax will rise to 600,000?
It was $1 million.
Was it? Oh, okay. $1 million instead of was it 200,000 for that?
What is it now? 320, is it? Oh, is it? Yeah. Well, the threshold's about 500.
Do you not think that that is a correct decision to increase the inheritance tax?
Well, of course, it's a correct decision, because you look at people today, families who've got a normal house, they live Middle England lives, and to come back to, I mean, not saying that that's what they shouldn't live. Okay. To come back to that, it is important that the children, if they've earned that money, if they've bought the house, it shouldn't be taken away by the government, and all the money goes straight to the government. It should be passed on to them to make sure that what the parents have worked for, or their next of kin have worked for, should be given to them. I think it was a very good decision, and quite cheeky almost of the new Chancellor to adopt that policy, and not very tactile of the Chancellor to adopt that policy straight after we had. It was a bit, the wrong time to come out with it anyway.
Right, so let's bring Brendan in. There's a chance to speak for one.
Was the question in regard to about inheritance? I wasn't quite missed the question a little bit.
Basically what I said was, with the house prices increasing all the time, and average house price now in the UK is £200,000, it's not right to increase the inheritance tax, so it's a high threshold.
Yes, but it was right to raise it, but not. It was right to raise it, but perhaps $500,000 is a bit extreme. You don't need anywhere near $500,000 to buy a first-time house. I mean,
it's
I think.
assets as well, it's not just a house.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but you can still buy a house with.
It's about the threshold you start paying tax to inherit a house.
Right, anyway. I'm confused now. Essentially, I think, to be honest, it probably was the right move, just simply because people would complain and people don't like being taxed when they're dead. So, but I think there's a lot of over the top stigma regarding inheritance tax. It's a terrible thing, but it only affects a very small amount of the population, even less so now, because I mean, it used to affect about 6% of people when they die. Obviously that increased because of house prices, but it affects a lot less now.
I'd have to argue against it.
Hang on, Dan. We'll bring Sam in after Brendan. Have you finished, Brendan? Yeah. Thanks, Brendan. Okay, Sam?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that inheritance tax is about taxing the people who are still alive, who are inheriting, the property or money, not the people who just died. So I think it's important to establish that for a kick-off, because otherwise it would be called death tax. First of all, I think what we're seeing with the inheritance tax situation read Dan's claim that we've been stealing Conservative policies. I don't think that's the case at all. I think what Dan has to face up to the fact is that his party is increasingly moving into a centre ground which we have held for the past 10 years, And policies like that, centre ground policies, which, you know, do appeal to the Middle England demographic. And so, I think, to be honest, although he might have released the policy first, along with a number of other policies that the Conservatives have suddenly decided to adopt, it's the policy that Labour would have had anyway.
To be fair, Sam, you yourself have argued many times in this very classroom that, you know, the elections will be won and will be lost on the middle ground for quite some time to come. You know, I don't think we'll see ideological, you know, moving up and down to the ends of the ideological scope for quite a long time. And I think that, you know, the policy of every party is to win an election, to gain power. And we've got to. I've not quite finished yet.
Okay, well, you did have a chance before, Dan. Hang on, let's go back to the question then. Does that kind of satisfy you, James?
Yeah,
You've heard the three parties speak on this.
Yeah, just like I said to Brendan, I don't agree that it's like only a small majority who are being taxed, inheriting the house. Because there are quite a lot of people in Middle England with a house between £300,000 and £500,000, which aren't like, they aren't millionaires. So it's still affected by taxing the 40% on what they're inheriting.
No, the percentage, it's also the percentage above that, remember. Also, you got to remember that the statistics did show that it was only 6% of people who would ever be affected at that point. Obviously, that's low. That's been low again. I don't know what the figure is now that it's 500,000. That's government statistics.
Okay,
can we just have a bit more of a rebuttal on this? I think we're getting caught off.
Can I point out something actually? I mean,
yeah, I'm going to end the mind up on this. I'm going to invite somebody else.
Win power is, I don't think sacrificing principles to win power is a particularly good move by any party.
No, and I agree with that. And I agree with the fact that the Conservative Party originally decided that they would keep their principles and decided to make their image more appealing to the public. We can't forget William Hague from Facebook now. And now they've decided that they're going to compromise their opinions and ideologies in order to win elections.
Now that seems to be a little hypocritical considering what happened since 1994 with New Labour, you know.
Well, I think...
It's okay, hang on, come on now. This is not just a party platform, is it? The idea is to take questions from the floor. Okay, so we've just had one from James. Are you okay now, James, with your reply? So next question, please, from somebody who hasn't had a chance to ask something. So Sarah, then Josh. Sarah.
More and more people are choosing to go into benefits instead of getting a job. More and more teenagers are now seen as an easy option to go into the benefits. What the parties do decide.
Okay, so we'll start with Sam and work that way. Yeah.
Well, I'd say it's the most prominent people who are in education, training or employment. The most prominent strategy that we've employed or are planning to employ to deal with that situation is the Carmel Flint's proposals on housing related to employment and surrounding people to get a job. We also have to bear in mind that the easiest way to make sure that people don't become dependent on benefits is to give them the opportunities to become more qualified when they're younger in order to have more job opportunities open to them. And we had a report just this week, I think, about the EMA system and how that's managed to incorporate a far larger number of people on lower income families, middle income families into the education system, and how that has correlated into an increase in the number going to higher education. I think as well the higher education financing reforms, although very controversial, have also significantly increased the number of lower income and middle income families whose children have gone on to degree level and further education. And I think that opens the opportunity for in the future far more people to have far greater job opportunities, reducing the number of people who would be employed or in the needs category anyway.
Thanks, Sam. Brendan?
In regards